All right, Bitcoin is coiling like a spring. It's going to do something. What's it going to do, right? We're coming up on hitting the 50% Fibonacci level. We got a death cross creeping in. And from a price standpoint, it's a fire sale based on the rainbow chart. So what's next? Are we going to rip higher? Are we going to crash to support levels into a bearish abyss? That's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to look at some charts. We're going to look at some data. A lot going on, conflicting feels and vibes in the marketplace. So we're gonna take a look at some of that. The first thing I want to do is take a look at the 50% Fibonacci retracement. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this chart up here. This is something I actually put up on X, but we're gonna dive into this in more detail. So what you're gonna see here is the Bitcoin chart. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out here, okay? And we're going to start all the way at this low, okay? This is when we went, and you can ignore those numbers. I was just a little something else. This line right here is when we were at the recent all-time low, and then we moved from the bearish market into a bullish run, and you can see we've been on that trajectory for some time now. Okay, so what we're doing is we're looking at the Fibonacci levels here. So we go from the all-time low, we run it all the way to the all-time high, and then we're going to get three different levels that it pulls from. Okay, now 50%, which is right here in orange, is not technically a Fibonacci number, but it's absolutely crucial and something we always look at, right? When we get to these red ones around that 62 and the 51, those are official Fibonacci numbers. But here's the thing. When we retest 73 and that 50%, that is an absolutely crucial thing to consider on whether we're going to go into a bearish market or bullish market, right? So what we'll do is let's zoom in here and we can take a look at how this chart is playing out, okay? And so if we look right here at these trend lines, right, we've got this support level, obviously a downward trend, but you can see here what that looks like, and then we've got these resistance levels as well. Now what's interesting is how tight this pattern has stayed, because look at this, from all the way back January 20th, right? So earlier this year, it stayed within this pattern. I mean, you get a wick here and there, but really, you stayed within this pattern all the way until February 25th. So we had a straight month of just following that pattern, and then we had a breakout. It broke down. That model broke down, right, for about a month into March, and then we saw this rebound, right? But what's interesting is, and this is something, yeah, again, I also posted this in X here, is that you can see these two patterns converging right here on Sunday, March 30th. I put a post out on X and I said, hey, Bitcoin has a decision to make, okay, on March 30th. You can check it out. It is either it's got to choose one of these directions, right? Is it going to continue on this and we're going to rebound upwards, or are we going to fall back into the pattern? It was either going to stay within these green bands or was it going to go to these red bands. And guess what? It decided to go within this red band. Now, obviously, from a macroeconomic standpoint, we have the tariffs and all that uncertainty. So given that news, right, it makes sense that we fell into this pattern. But what's fascinating is just how tight I mean, you remove this area here, right? It's just amazing how tight it is. And look what it's converging on. It's converging on that 50% level. Now, we never know. We look at the charts, we read data, we take a lot of different viewpoints and macroeconomic ideas and compile them to try and make some educated decisions. But what's interesting too is that this pattern looks pretty consistent right now, right? And what's again, this back and forth on ideas and perceptions is that Bitcoin is quite resilient right now. It is, right? So if we go, let's go to, here, we'll just trade out, we'll go to, let's just type in SPY here real quick. Okay? We go SPY, look at this. I mean, complete cliff, right, with those tariffs. Keep that in mind. All right, just straight, I mean, it was already on this trajectory. We got a little rebound. You can see that happened in Bitcoin. But look at this. Since Friday, March 28th, and especially on Thursday and Friday of this past week, complete cliff, okay? So what you actually have is a decoupling of Bitcoin from the stock market. Now that's interesting, okay? Let's see here where we got these charts here. That's interesting, right? And so that does show resilience relative to the stock market. And I'm going to give you the other way of looking at it. Yeah, there's been the decoupling from the stock market, but all we're really doing is staying within this trajectory that Bitcoin was already on. So is it showing resilience, or is it simply saying there's a trajectory converging on this 50% level, and we're going to follow that path until we get there? I don't know, right? I don't know, but it's interesting, right? So it is somewhat looks like it is still held steady, but at the same time, we're staying within the defined pattern that's there. So, all right. Now, we're going to look at another chart. We're going to come back to this, okay? But what I want you to keep in mind is that this 50% level, right now we're looking at April 30th. So the end of this month, if this pattern follows, we will test the 50% level. Anywhere between April 30th to May 11th, right? So let's just say the first week of May, we could test the 50% level. Now, if we go below that, what happens? It doesn't mean it's the end of the bull market. I personally don't think so. But it gets real interesting because the next Fibonacci number, we're testing the low 60s, okay? Which gets very, very interesting, all right? But let's do this. Let's see if there's any other indicators that tell us what's going on in the market. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Bitcoin moving average for the 50 and the 200 day. Now here it gets interesting, right? Is that we're converging on the death cross. We're just about there, all right? Where the short-term price drops below the long-term price. That 50-day goes below the 200, called a death cross. And that is a bearish indicator. Now the wild part is that we have all these macroeconomics that are going on right now with these tariffs. Now, could they just be negotiation plays and then back off, and that could change the market and it could rebound? Absolutely, right? Or are we in for a longer haul of these lower lows into Q2? That could absolutely happen as well, right? These are interesting because it doesn't mean that this is something to, it could be a fake out, right? But this is, it's interesting to see this in what would technically be, we're in that bull market phase of the 4-year cycle, and we get all this uncertainty, okay? Now here's the benefit. We're discussing what direction this price is going to go in the near term. The premise, nothing has changed with Bitcoin. It actually has more tailwinds going for it than headwinds. So this is actually a great time if you believe in the overall premise of Bitcoin being the only commodity with a fixed supply, the truest and hardest asset there is. Take a look at this. We are in fire sale price zone here. Okay, we're in this blue area. It's a fire sale. Wow, we have an administration that's pro-Bitcoin, a Bitcoin strategic reserve that's been announced. We have the M2 money supply is starting to, we're getting out of that tightening. They're probably going to start printing some money very quickly, which will raise all asset prices. I mean, it's a really interesting turning point that we're coming up on, and depending on which direction it goes, you're going to get more of a fire sale. You can see here, which is interesting because if you look at the fire sale number right now, it says that we go into Bitcoin is dead zone below that, let's say 64. But I gave you the date of the end of the month, right? That we would test the 50% and then we would drop below that. So why don't we go into, let's just go into a couple days out. Well, let's just stay on it. 64,000, okay? Now, when we go back over here, look at this 64,000. This is a retest area. I mean, if we're here, this is an unbelievable buying opportunity. And you have to have the conviction that Bitcoin is going to perform over the long run. But I mean, the price is quite interesting. So, what happens if we go below that 50% level? Like I mentioned, we're likely going to retest 66 or 60K. And then it could flip to neutral or bearish if liquidity dries up, because people are just pulling their money out of the stock market. Here's the other thing. Right now, with the stock market tanking, okay, people might freak out, right? And then they might pivot to risk-off assets. Historically, Bitcoin has been a risk-on asset, but the fact that it's held its price strong in this market, people are going to move into assets like gold, maybe into the 10-year. But there might be more and more money flooding back into Bitcoin, and that's what's holding its price up as we speak. It's just a wild time right now. I guess that's all I'm getting at is I don't know what's going on. I'm sharing a lot of different conflicting data points, and it's, I think, one of the more unique environments in a post-halving bull market environment. I mean, it's unique. Okay, so I'm giving you a lot of mixed signals because the market's giving us a lot of mixed signals, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, but from simply a price standpoint, this is a great price. It really is. If you're in it for the long haul, we've got this scary death cross staring us in the face. We've got this pretty consistent downward trend within this tight band converging on the 50% line. But then we've got these macro environment that's very positive. You know what I mean? So I don't know. So what do you do, right? So that's just a long way of saying I don't know exactly. But what you can do, you can continue to get dollar cost average because these are great entry points, right? I mean, you can be cautious, obviously. Avoid panic buying or selling and chasing candles. I'm not a proponent of selling, but everybody's got life circumstances they need to think about. But I just, man, it's going to be real interesting because we have, through this month, right, these tariffs just got announced, right? Now, is it going to be people within 2 weeks? There's some movement on reduction in tariffs. People who are playing nice, and these are negotiation tactics, and then we get into mid-April and this starts to change direction. Sure. Or are we going to test this 74? I think, to be honest, I'm going to say the friend's the trend. I'm not going to fight this trend right now because there is so much uncertainty out there that I do think we test 73 or 74. I personally, even if, so once we get to this 73 and we test it, I would not personally expect us to stay on this type of trajectory to 62, right? Once we test here, I either see us bouncing up or coming down, crashing hard because there's going to be options. There's going to be a lot of different, there's going to be shorts, there's going to be all sorts of different stuff happening, right? the 62 would be wild. Could it happen? I'm uncomfortable committing to something like that, but I could see us testing the 73 within the month of April. I mean, this tells me that we probably, right, you can see here, this is going to cross over, right, let's say around here. I mean, I don't see us getting to 52, right? I mean, it would be quite an interesting world we're in. So anyway, what you can do is, I just say be cautious, watch the markets. This technically, in my opinion, these are good prices. And just stay nimble, stay aware of things. You're gonna get tested. There's gonna be some psychological stuff going on, and a lot of uncertainty. And just be calm and patient. And I say don't freak out, but it's gonna get real interesting. And when this thing breaks out and it runs hard, I think we're gonna see some very aggressive candles to the upside when we do get out of this pattern. Okay, I really do. I mean, this pattern is pretty aggressive upwards, right? If we turn this, we could be getting back up quickly here. So it's a long way of saying a lot of uncertainty. This is the current trend that we're on. Be mindful of that. This might help you set some limit orders coming up. Like and subscribe below. Let me know what your thoughts are. I don't know if anybody's got a great read on this situation, because we've got so much new stuff going on with tariffs and everything else. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a true test for Bitcoin, and I think it's going to get the hands that are in and are getting in now are going to be the whales. They're going to be the most convicted people. And when we get transfer from the lettuce hands to the diamond hands, and no matter where the price goes, a lot of them are diamond hands and the price isn't moving. I mean, that's when this thing runs like crazy. So there you go. Do what you will with this one. Threw a lot out there. Like and subscribe. Thank you. Keep stacking those sats, and best wishes.